Amid the mayhem, the group quickly grabs the keys to one of the patrons' cars and makes a swift escape. Later, Sheriff Hartman arrives at the barbecue scene with Deputy Sorrell and discovers that one of the criminals in the group is actually the teenage Jedediah. He questions the patron who had shot Bud, and the man gives a detailed account of everything that happened, including the violent actions of Ike and Clarice. Meanwhile, the teens are forced to continue on foot after the stolen car runs out of fuel. They make their way through the woods and come across an old abandoned trailer. Upon entering, they find it empty but soon discover the owner dead inside, possibly having taken his own life.
Do you see that loneliness?
They decide to take refuge in the trailer, and Lizzie tends to Bud's gunshot wound. That night, Clarice and Ike share an intimate moment, during which Clarice reveals her scarred body, and Ike continues making love to her over the decaying corpse. Afterward, Ike assigns Bud to night patrol, instructing him to keep watch while the others sleep. In the middle of the night, while everyone is asleep, Lizzie quietly attempts to escape. However, her attempt is short-lived as she is caught by Ike, who tries to assault her. Jackson intervenes and a brutal physical altercation ensues between the two men. However, Clarice steps in to break up the fight, with Bud following her lead. Ike orders Clarice to take Lizzie and Jackson back to the trailer and insults Bud for failing as a lookout, especially after Lizzie nearly escaped. Later, while Ike is urinating, Bud suddenly attacks him from behind. Bud drags the unconscious Ike to a nearby field and places his mouth on a tree stump before brutally curb-stomping his head. The next morning, Clarice wakes up to find Ike missing and goes into the woods to search for him. Jackson and Lizzie realize that Bud is also missing and head out to look for him. However, they find Bud sleeping on Ike's corpse and quickly take him away before Clarice can discover what he has done. Meanwhile, in the woods, Clarice is apprehended by Deputy Sorrells, who quickly alerts Sheriff Hartman and the rest of the police force. It turns out that Hartman and Clarice have a history stemming from a previous crime, and he wastes no time attacking her when he arrives on the scene. In a fit of rage, Hartman presses on Clarice's injury, demanding that she reveal where the other escapees are hiding. Despite his threats, Clarice spits in his face in defiance and then makes a desperate run back toward the trailer. Hartman pulls out his gun and shoots Clarice in the leg, causing her to cry out in pain, which alerts Jackson, Lizzie, and Bud of the cops' presence. Hartman then drags Clarice toward the trailer and orders the other escapees to come out from hiding. Undeterred, Clarice starts laughing and taunting Hartman, even insulting him about his dead daughter. This pushes Hartman over the edge, and in a fit of rage, he shoots Clarice in the head, killing her instantly as the others watch from a distance. With Clarice's death, Hartman leads a shootout at the trailer, believing the remaining escapees are hiding inside. After witnessing Clarice's brutal death, Jackson, Lizzie, and Bud flee into the countryside, desperate to escape. As they make their way through the open land, they come across a dead cow. When the troopers release tracking dogs, the trio quickly hides inside the cow's carcass to throw off the dog's scent. After the troopers pass by, the trio emerges from their hiding spot and continues their work until they come across a river. They wash the blood off their faces before continuing their perilous journey. As they reach a bridge, Lizzie spots a highway patrol officer and flags him down, hoping for help. The officer immediately calls for backup, but things quickly take a turn. Bud confronts the officer, and during their struggle, the officer shoots Bud in the head, killing him instantly. The loss of Bud sends Jackson into a violent rage, and he brutally attacks the officer, eventually killing him. Jackson jumps into the patrol car as Lizzie starts driving away, accusing her of betraying them and getting Bud killed. As they drive away, they are relentlessly pursued by the deranged Sheriff Hartman, who opens fire on them. One of the bullets tears through Jackson's face, while another strikes Lizzie, causing her to lose control of the car, leading to a crash. When Lizzie regains consciousness, she finds herself handcuffed in Hartman's car. She answers a radio call from Deputy Sorrells, who asks about her location, and she informs him that she is outside an old barn. Just as she finishes the call, Hartman arrives and drags her into the barn, where she is horrified to see Jackson, hooded and chained up. Planning to kill them, Hartman gleefully reveals to Lizzie that Jackson is actually Jedediah Sawyer, the kid responsible for his daughter's death years ago. Meanwhile, Deputy Sorrells visits Verna and reveals that Hartman has Jed locked up in the old barn where Betty was killed. It is revealed that Sorrells has been secretly working with Verna all along. He was the one who tipped her off about Jed's escape from the asylum. After demanding payment for providing Verna with information, Sorrells is attacked by Drayton and Nubbins. They then feed him to their pigs, and together with Verna, they head to the barn to save Jed. As Verna and the others arrive at the barn, they witness Jackson dropping Jed into a pit in front of her, seemingly killing him. While Hartman is distracted by Nubbins, he is suddenly attacked from behind and knocked unconscious by Drayton. Jed, who is still alive, is pulled out of the pit, and the group takes him back home. Verna tends to his large facial wound, carefully stitching it up and fitting him with a muzzle to hold his face together. Somewhere in the Sawyer house, Lizzie manages to free herself from her restraints and proceeds to escape. However, Hartman, who is still alive, pleads with her for help. Reluctantly, Lizzie unties him and the two cautiously enter a room used for performing rituals, and they quickly hide when they hear Verna approaching. When Lizzie and Hartman attempt to escape, they are caught by Drayton and Nubbins. Verna gifts Jed his original chainsaw, and Lizzie watches in horror as he bisects Hartman to death in the living room. As the family celebrates, Elizabeth seizes the chance to flee, but Verna and her psychopathic sons go after her. Lizzie reaches a main road just as Jed catches up to her, but his chainsaw malfunctions. She hesitates until he gets it started, then he resumes chasing her down a long road. Lizzie nearly escapes but is caught in a bear trap. She appeals to Jed's good nature, believing there is good within him, while Verna urges him to kill Lizzie to protect their family. At first, Jed begins to soften as Lizzie pleads with him, insisting that he is not a killer. However, when she insults Verna by calling her crazy, he brutally decapitates her. The next morning, Verna burns the evidence of the night's events, and the Sawyers feed the remains of their victims to the pigs. In the basement, Jed crafts masks from the flesh of Hartman and Elizabeth to become Leatherface. The film ends with him smashing a mirror at the sight of his own reflection. Okay guys, that's all the recap about Leatherface from 2017. Thanks for watching, see you again in the next video.